July of 2010. So I'm trying to see when Chowder itself
Mystery
ended
Inc.
in
started in
2010.
April of 2010, actually.
Oh, this is wrong then. What I just
Yeah,
read.
what was cool about Mystery Incorporated is that it started and ended on the same day, just 3 years apart.
Chowder ended in August. So yeah, they had 4 months
Yeah, so
where
I
they
can imagine that
coexisted.
Dwight was probably at least like around, because he also did some more voice stuff for Cartoon Network in that period of time. Because you also have to remember they probably still was recording like Chowder bumpers and stuff, because they still would make new bumpers even if the show was not like, airing, because it was still part of
But
marketing.
well, yeah, and also he was on Ben 10 as a recurring
Oh
villain,
yeah,
so
he
that was
was
probably
on
the other
Ben 10.
thing.
God, I forgot about that. Also, hi guys, welcome to Cinema Gremlins. We're not talking about Chowder today.
We've been talking about a lot of Cartoon Network stuff before we started, so
Yeah, but we're talking about arguably one of like the what would you say Powerpuff Girls is? Because
what the show
what its impact is on Cartoon Network. I would say like it is one of the biggest legacies of Cartoon Network.
Well, it was there, I would say at the time, because every show Cartoon Network had during the Powerpuff period was a hit show, but I would say Powerpuff Girls was the closest thing they had to a SpongeBob at the time.
I mean, especially with marketing and everything. Like, to give so God, I hope that our audience with this show knows what a cartoon is.
Are we dating ourselves because we're both pushing 30 at this point?
No, we're gremlins. We have no age and no bodies. But because cartoons, I would say like, I mean, Dexter's Lab was
well, that was the first one technically, wasn't it?
Because in order, because they're like how like people have arguments about what movies are part of the Disney Renaissance and what
the Disney Renaissance.
The Disney Renaissance. No, like people have arguments of when the term cartoon ended, because there's so many shows that unofficially have that term. But Powerpuff Girls that is a cartoon. Let's be frank here. But like,
I'd say cartoon as a concept. I personally think it ended in like 2006, like 2005, 2006.
Okay, so we'll get to our subject matter soon. The poster will pop up and scare us soon, but I want to set us up. It's been a while. Because let me tell you, folks, the universe really did not want us to do this show, so we're gonna be.
No, I need to put this into perspective for people. It has taken us 4 weeks to do this episode because every time we had a date plan, something would come up, or like literally
would fall on my head.
Even there'd be some days where we'd be like an hour from starting and then something would happen.
Like I threw up again. I got hay fever. Michael had to go to the doctor. Like there was
I had like either really bad allergies or like a viral throat infection, which I'm still kind of getting over. So like,
yeah, so if I sound stuffy and Michael starts hawking up demons, you know why. But okay, so the list of official cartoons. We got Dexter's Lab in 96, Johnny Bravo in 97, Cow and Chicken in 97, I Am Weasel in 97.
God, they were really working that studio to the bone in 97.
Oh, here's the thing. Johnny Bravo, Cow and Chicken, and I Am Weasel I don't know why they separated I Am Weasel and Cow and Chicken, because didn't they air in the same block?
I wasn't allowed to watch those two, so I wouldn't know. But
you know what? I don't blame your parents. But like,
those were like I think 2 of like 3 Cartoon Network shows I wasn't allowed to watch. I wasn't allowed to watch those 2, and I wasn't allowed to watch Ed, Edd and Eddy.
But no, like you know how Nickelodeon started with God, what were the 3 shows? Doug, Ren and
Rugrats,
Stimpy,
Doug,
and
and Ren and Stimpy.
It's
Yeah.
similar to this because the premiere dates for these three shows: Johnny Bravo, July 14th, 1997. Cow and Chicken, July 15th, 1997.
Oh, did they air them in like a weekend block?
I Am Weasel,
kind of thing?
July 22nd, 1990, like a week, basically. And then we got the Powerpuff Girls, November 18th, 1998. And then you got Ed and Eddie, Mike, Lou, and Og, Courage, Sheep in the Big City, Time Squad, Grim and Evil, Whatever Happened to Robot Jones, Codename Kids Next Door, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and technically, I'm putting this here, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Evil Con Carne are counted as the last two cartoons, even though they started with Grim and Evil.
The Grim and Evil, yeah. I think the funniest thing about what those names you mentioned is like that middle section, aside from Courage the Cowardly Dog, is like all of those are considered like forgotten shows.
I want a resurgence. I need that retrospective resurgence that people have towards some shows to happen to Time Squad.
I do too.
Time Squad.
I've said for the longest time, Time Squad is like the true successor to Peabody and Sherman.
It really
like that is, which is one of the things that upsets me so much because I'm like, no, it's not the fucking movie. Don't look at the fucking movie. Look at Time Squad. Time Squad is the Peabody and Sherman sequel.
Funny and like, I mean, I was rewatching it recently, and it was very funny to hear like, you know, because it had a lot of voice actors for the sake of, you know, different figures of history, and they had the Wright brothers, the Plain People, and one of them was played by Bob Joles, which just sounds like his character on Big City Greens. And I
love we have regulated the creators of the Plain too. You know, the Plain People.
Those Plain People. My favorite episode of Time Squad, though, is the Edgar Allan Poe episode.
I haven't watched Time Squad in probably a decade, so I would need a refresher. But, like, I still, like, go back to bits and pieces of that show every so often. The theme song to Time Squad slaps so fucking hard.
Do you know that apparently the music that was made for it, was made by someone who would go on to make music for, like, Mucha Lucha, the Lilo and Stitch series.
Yeah, that makes sense. That Secret Saturdays especially makes sense.
All these shows have such good music that it's like, that, like the computer sound that you hear when the episodes start is burned in my brain. For some reason, that sound effect scratches my brain so good.
It's that, like, I remembered the theme song to Time Squad more than I remembered the show for a long time as a kid. Like, that is how much that theme song stuck out to me. And I remember not too long ago, I actually went back through, like, all the Cartoon Network intros and ranked them, you know, because I have autism. And I remember re-listening to Time Squad, and I'm like, it's like that and Samurai Jack, I think, are like the two best intros they ever did. Like
I mean, when you get Will.i.am to make your theme song, you know, it's you're guaranteed for. I have opinions on Will.i.am as a person, but the dude knows how to produce a good music. Moto can make a good theme song.
I mean, he is William.
He is Will. I am a person. But I mean, like, my way of always remembering Time Squad is because Time Squad was always the show that came on after other shows. I know, crazy, right? But I always remembered the, you know, those little things they had in between shows where they were like, up next is blank, followed by blank on Cartoon Network. And I remember the Time Squad ones because their little Larry 3000 icon they always used for it looks so stupid because they always had little icons for the shows. But also, Tud Russell is like my favorite Rob Paulsen role.
Buck Tud Russell.
It's so fun. I like my show where Rob Paulsen and Mark Hamill are married with an adopted child. I like my futuristic odd couple. But anyways, we're talking
Movie.
about something that I wish started a better precedent. But because of lackluster box office, it became a rarity. The Powerpuff.
It became a rarity for like, God, outside of TV movies. Didn't they only make like one other Cartoon Network movie, and that was Teen Titans Go?
Yep. And that's only like, that's technically not even a Cartoon Network movie because that's a Warner Brothers property that gets distributed to Cartoon Network. So like, this is technically, actually, I think the other technicality is Johnny and Bollywood did get a theater release in India.
A thing that I don't think that even got released here outside of, I think, like one airing.
Even though it's in English.
And they got Jeff Bennett.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't
so
know.
it's not even like it's an unofficial thing.
Yeah. I saw that one on a plane. For some reason, it was on the plane.
Was it like a thing you could buy, or was it like one of those like online like cable like live TV things?
It was like one of the movies you could watch on the plane. But either way, I love the Powerpuff Girls movie. I just it's such a perfect like, hey, how do you up the ante to make something worthy of a theatrical release? In both like looks and story and action.
You know, there's something this actually was something that spurred me thinking about this movie a while back. Was I was like going through like I was in a call in my server a few months ago, and I was like going through every like TV theatrical animated movie. And I was just like, is there a single one that doesn't have like a single celebrity actor in it? This has nothing.
Yep, this is all
I think this is
show.
Yeah, this might be the only, if I recall, I think this was the only one that did not have a single celebrity, not even a single celebrity, an outside actor in it.
Like even the Simpsons movie had Tom Hanks appear for
Tom Hanks and Albert Brooks.
Well, okay, I don't know if I would count Albert, because Albert was in episodes of The Simpsons.
Yeah, but he's also a known name. He's not like an A-list actor, but he is a known name.
I guess that's fair. But still, it's like, yeah, this is the only one of a theatrical scale. Because Lord knows the Teen Titans Go movie had so many celebrities.
Well, it's like, I gotta find the list, because I know I like wrote them all down like a while back, because I think there might have been like one that only had like one or two, but like it was so weird to me going through these and just being like, it's so weird. There's like no celebrities in this, especially in the early 2000s when they were making a lot more of these, and they were like really banking on like, this is the big screen version of the show, so we got like 3 celebrities in it.
Yeah,
like,
because you know, this is going to be our big movie with our featuring Freddie Prinze Jr.
Well, it's like, I'm thinking of like the Recess movie and how that movie has like 3 or 4 celebrities in it, and some of them only have like a scene.
Didn't Doug's first movie have did Doug's first movie have a celebrity person?
That was another one that didn't. Which I was actually really surprised it didn't.
Especially since, wasn't that released by Disney? It's not like they
it was during the Disney Doug ownership, and there's like not a single celebrity in that movie.
Fascinating. Unless we find out later on that they got like Bruce Willis or something to be the noises for the monster.
I think that it was supposed to originally be a TV movie. I don't think it was supposed to have a theatrical run.
I'm 90% sure. It's the same thing with like Jungle Book 2 and Peter Pan 2, where I'm like, were these supposed to be going
or the Clone Wars movie, because that also wasn't supposed to be a theatrical film.
That was just a pilot, right? Like a pilot.
Yeah, it was the first 3 episodes of the show. And I actually remember the interview Dave Filoni did where he said like, oh yeah, George Lucas came to the studio one day and saw us making the show, and we were just about done with the first 3 episodes, and George Lucas went, this is really good, let's make it a movie.
You know what? Sure. But
no, actually, no. Dave Filoni. I remember in the interview, Dave Filoni was like, "What? No, we can't make this a movie."
yes, we can. I'm George. Look. Oh,
No, literally, that's basically what happened. It was like, no, we're gonna make this a movie.
I just imagine George Lucas grabbing like the discs with the 3 episodes on it, and
grabbing Dave Filoni by like his shirt collar.
No, I'm just imagining he's like slowly walking out of it, maintaining eye contact with Filoni, and Filoni is like, "Hey, George, don't."
I'm putting it in the theater button. I'm pushing the theater button right now. I'm putting it in
George,
theaters.
Don't. Oh, look, I'm calling my marketing lead. He's going to make the trailer.
What are you going to do? Are you going to stop me? I'm George Lucas.
I'm George Lucas. I'll call my buddy Stevie Spielberg to kick your ass. And then you just see Steven Spielberg outside the studio with a bat, be like,
no, he's like crawling on the ceiling like a lizard.
I'll beat you with my Oscar. George can't do that. But anyways, like, yeah, this doesn't have any, which I like, because, you know, I like.
I think it's also what would you do with a celebrity in this movie? Because
was there ever a celebrity cameo in the show?
Oh, they had guest stars on Powerpuff Girls every so often. Like Phyllis Diller was in an episode.
Oh yeah,
she played a villain in the show.
You know, like the only actor that I think could have done something in this movie, and this is just a cameo. Like, I have to make it clear, it would only be a cameo. Would maybe be Mark Hamill, because Mark Hamill's in everything. I could imagine him being one of I could imagine him being one of the monkeys.
I think the only other person I think it could have been an actual, like, pretty funny, or at least like a fun cameo, would have been like one of the members of the Gorillaz. And I mean like one of the singers. I don't mean the characters. I mean like one of the singers.
Or they got Murdoch's voice actor. I think that would be.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the only one that could have been funny, because there is a couple Gorillaz things sprinkled in the movie that I actually didn't realize until I went back to it.
Apparently, just besties with the fucking Gorillaz crew.
Well, I actually found out after I watched the movie, because I did a little production research, and I found out apparently Craig wanted them to do a song for the film. He wanted them to do, like, the credits theme, but I guess they were too busy at the time, so they couldn't commit to it.
That's understandable, because, like, what year was this movie?
2002?
What year was Demon Days?
This
is why I have the internet. Internet, tell me.
2005.
Clint Eastwood came out in 2001, though, so this was when they were starting to get big. So
well, that's what I was saying, is I think 2002 would have been, like, right after they just started blowing up.
I mean, that would have been right after, well, the first album that has that on it, which would have been... because that was the thing. Clint Eastwood came out, was like, yeah, I'm stupid. Their debut album is literally just called Gorillaz. It's one of those albums. But, like, yeah, so they would have been, like, because they had that, and then they had Laika Come Home, which is the remix album. But they would have been on, like, touring and everything, because Clint Eastwood and Demon Days has like a 4-year gap between it, which was all just that. Plus, I think Damon Albarn was like making a lot of music for himself at the time. Cause yeah, I forget sometimes that he just has his own thing because he's the Blur Man.
Blur Man group.
But look, that we got our Powerpuff Girls Gorilla collab years upon years later. With Ace being a Murdoch replacement for a couple songs.
Also, so I looked into the cast of Powerpuff Girls because I was curious to see if they ever had any other celebrity guests. Other than Billy Hayes, no.
Wow.
They had like no other celebrities, which I find surprising.
Yeah, like, you know,
I would like Powerpuff Girls with how long it was on and how popular it was. You would think they would have gotten like more like character actor or celebrity
I
guests
think
or
it's
something to be on
especially
it.
surprising given their peers, because we were talking about it being a cartoon, right? Like, let's think of the show. Like Dexter had quite a few guest stars.
Oh, Dexter had several guest stars.
Johnny Bravo, if it was an episode written by Seth
Oh my,
MacFarlane or Butch
Johnny Bravo,
I
if I recall, I think Johnny Bravo has like the largest cast in Cartoon Network history, something like that, of just like, guest stars.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about Cow and Chicken. I didn't watch Cow and Chicken a lot, or I Am Weasel, but I'm sure they had something once in a while. But like because it's just weird considering that they're past people, and also thinking of, because as much as people forget, Powerpuff Girls is a Hanna-Barbera production. So much of Hanna-Barbera is let's get a guest star. It's very weird to see that they don't. But I guess it's not too weird because looking at the cartoon lineup, and you go down the list, Powerpuff Girls onwards, it is actually surprising because Ed, Edd n Eddy was like right after, Mike Lunog, Courage, Sheep. They all really didn't have celebrity guest stars.
Okay, so I was looking at Cow and Chicken. No, Cow and Chicken had way more celebrities than you'd think.
Really?
Yeah, Judy Tenuta, Jim Belushi, Jeremy Piven, Will Ferrell.
What?
Like during his
Dom
peak of
DeLuise?
SNL. Dom DeLuise, Phyllis Diller. So I'm looking through like a whole list. Kenneth Mars.
Why is all these people here?
Edie McClurg, Ed McMahon, Conchata Farrell, Bronson Pinchot. There's a lot of people that guest starred on Cow and Chicken.
Yeah, but this raises my point even more of like, once you go Powerpuff Girls onwards, like, there wasn't a lot of celebrity stuff until, I don't know if I would even count Time Squad, because a lot of Time Squad's actors for the historical figures, most of them were just other voice actors.
I'd say like the only other Cartoon Network show I can think of that had a really consistent amount of celebrities during that period would have been Billy and Mandy.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's a significant period of time where the cartoons were not heavy on the celebrity front. But either way, like it's also the thing, I don't think this movie would have benefited from having it.
No, well, that's the thing, is like, what would you do with a celebrity in a Powerpuff movie?
Them being more of the monkeys, like I can't imagine them doing anything like extreme story-wise characters with it, because this is a very character-focused movie.
Well, that's the thing, because if you got a celebrity, I feel like the celebrity would have to be, especially during this period, the celebrity would have to be a focal point. Like, they wouldn't just be, like, a cameo.
Yeah, like,
probably.
We wouldn't be able to have Mojo be the villain if there was a celebrity in it.
Unless they, like, wanted to... Well, apparently, I don't know if this is true or not, but when I was looking up some stuff about the film, apparently, the main three actresses went on a strike because they felt like their pay wasn't warranted for a theatrical film. So they wanted higher pay for the movie. I guess there was like again, it was very confusingly worded when I read the story about it. So it sounded like they were going on strike because they didn't feel like they were going to have a justified pay for a film. Basically, I guess they thought they weren't going to be paid well for doing a film. Did they think
that they were going to get paid TV rates?
I guess. I don't know. Because, I mean, I guess this was during that period where a lot of that stuff was still being pretty experimental. Because from what I know, I think a couple of those films at the time, the pay wasn't that much better for the movie. So I don't know.
That is interesting. But, like, I guess we should actually talk about Watch the Movie Pro.
Because we're like 25 minutes in and we still haven't talked about the movie.
There's a lot to unpack with a legacy like the Powerpuff Girls. But yes.
And also for a movie that disappointingly bombed. Like,
which sucks when you watch it. It's like it's not it's a movie that did not deserve to bomb, and I feel like it bombing set some terrible precedences to not just how Cartoon Network went about like not making films and stuff, but also I think just in general animation and how it's marketed to demographics. I think a lot of business people use the bombing of the Powerpuff Girls movie as justification for a lot of terrible like perpetuation.
well, like even when you see Craig or some other people talk about how the why the movie bombed, and I'm under the impression, I do believe what Craig said, where he thinks that just a lot of boys didn't want to tell their parents they wanted to go see the Powerpuff movie out of like fear of being judged.
Mm-hmm.
Which I get. As a 6-year-old, I didn't care. I still saw it in theaters, but like I can understand that logic. But again, it's basically impossible to know why at this why the movie underperformed.
I would love to see how much this movie made when it went to home media.
Well, the funny thing is that the movie technically turned a profit. It just did not turn the profit Cartoon Network wanted when it came out in theaters.
I mean, that's also just one of those things where I'm like, okay, I feel like studios set their expectations for failure when it's like, oh, it made money, it just didn't make the money we wanted. Like, you know.
Well, yeah, because like I think Craig had like talked about how they were expecting the movie to make like 40 million, and I think it only made like 15 million.
I'm sorry, I don't, because we're thinking in 2002 money, like that's an insane amount to expect for a movie based off a TV show.
Well, how much? Well, I mean, didn't the Rugrats make 100?
Yes, but the Rugrats also, I feel like, here's the thing, and you know, maybe it's because I'm not a studio head because I actually have a soul, but like. I feel like one outlying example that was only consistent with that particular franchise should not be the standard people make. You need to have more. This is how people do research for things. You need to have more in your control group. Only working with one specific thing is why BMI was created, you know? Like, it's just like, I'm not going to look at Rugrats, the weirdly monolithic show that was more of a monolith than Powerpuff Girls at the time, and you know, preceded it and everything, and be like, yeah, we could be just like that with no proof. Especially since the things that shown the proof of, you know, Powerpuff Girls' success was like a TV show that you can watch in the privacy of your own home, and merchandise you can buy to have in the privacy of your own home.
Well, okay, I've actually, since you've been talking about this, I've been digging into like the other theatrical like TV movies at the time because I was curious to see how their box office compared. I guess I could see how they had that mindset because the average film at the time that was based on a TV show like the Recess movie or the second Rugrats movie or like those kind of things, they did make about 40.
I suppose, but I guess also, like, you know, maybe this goes back to the thing. I guess the Recess characters and fucking babies were more of a not embarrassing thing to go see than girls, which, I mean, there's commentary there of like, you know,
which is so weird because even during that period, Powerpuff was a huge media thing. Like it was a big deal at the time when that shit, because that was like 4 years into its run.
Yeah, like I don't know what can be in, you know, because so many people were like, you know, boys did not want to go see it. What was like? It makes me sad of what could have been internalized in those you know, boys to be like, no, you know, I watch this show and I like this show, but if I go see the movie, I'm going, you know, like, especially since they're like, oh, we don't want to tell our parents that we're going to go see this. It's like, what did your parents instill upon you, 2002 child?
Well, because I was thinking, like, what if, like, a My Life's a Teenage Robot movie was made, which I know wasn't as popular, but, like, I'm thinking about, like, other shows during that period, like, what if Kim Possible got a theatrical film? Like, would it, and we'll never know, because they didn't get theatrical films, but I do wonder how those movies would have done if they had, like, if What's the Drama got a theatrical release, would it have done really
I
well?
mean, yeah, and I don't want to make a sweeping statement here, but I feel like when you look at who are the main characters, like the main center point characters of all these TV movies, I'm just saying a lot of them seem to be boys. Doug, the main character, Doug, and like Rugrats. Like besides Lil and later Kimmy and Angelica, most of the characters in that are boys. You have fucking Recess, the main while there are girls in the Recess crew, the main character is, TJ. What I don't know. I feel like the fact that the main characters in Powerpuff Girls are girls, who knows? And I feel like if there was like a My Life as a Teenage Robot movie or Kim Possible, those main characters are girls. I don't know. Maybe it's just one. You hear that thing about like Tangled and Princess and the Frog, and it was like people don't want to go to a movie where princess is in the title, and that's why they changed the title to Tangled. And like it's one of those things where it's like, is it really that bad to have the main character be a girl? Is that such a terrifying concept? You're not weak for wanting to watch a show. Like, do you not identify with a character just because it's a girl?
Well, it's like if the My Little Pony, if bronies didn't exist, that's the thing, would the My Little Pony movie have done as well? That's kind of another thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll never know. And again, the liberal media. That's like all I'm thinking with this is the liberal media.
Mojo Jojo, the liberal media.
The liberal media.
But anyways, like enough social commentary. The movie is a prequel, which I think is also it was a
really smart idea. Yeah. I think, to make it a prequel.
Yeah, because like, given that the show had made like 3 different episodes that were like the backstory of the Powerpuff Girls, this is objectively the best way to go about it.
Well, and funny enough, I was actually thinking about this while watching, because you remember the episode where Mojo wants to work with the professor as a good guy, and then you obviously find out at the end he's a villain, and then the professor has PTSD and remembers that Mojo was a shit-ass little ape that he used to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that, and I'm like, this movie kind of puts that episode into question now, because did Professor Utonium forget, like, a year ago? What happened?
I mean, like, I feel like I don't know if Craig has ever said, like, that episode is retconned because of the movie or not.
Well, I saw, like, one person make the argument of, like, maybe he never put the pieces together that it was the same monkey, but I'm like, how? How would he have not put the pieces together back then? Yeah. Especially when he put the professor in a fucking headlock and dragged him across the floor.
But yeah, like, I think that's the first point of this. This movie is fucking dark.
Oh, it is. I was actually going to bring that up, is like, because I've seen a lot of people discuss this, and apparently even Craig has said in interviews that, like, if he had gone back and redone the movie, he would have made it lighter. Because I've seen some people bring up that they think the movie has a lot of tonal whiplash, or the movie is, like, too depressing comparative to the show, which, having rewatched it a few days ago, I can kind of see. I still really like the movie, but, like, it is depressing.
The whole scene of them on the meteor is just like, oh,
Well, that and the scene I think of, the meteor's one thing. The scene I always go back to is when they first walk into the classroom after it's been destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the scene I think of where I'm just like, this is so depressing.
I think of the scene where they're looking at all the news things and all of the news people are being fucking awful to them.
Reminder, that's like a 5-minute period where all that happens. The school scene and then the news media scene. I'm like, it's this 5-minute period
of
just...
I rewind back to when there was just a happy montage of Utonium being a dad? Like, come on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a lot of happy in the movie.
There's also not a lot of comedy in this movie.
No, that's the thing I was really surprised at, because like there's a few jokes in it, but like it's not funny. And again, I'm not even saying that as like a detriment to the film, because it is still a good film.
Weird, given the source material. Like, let's be clear, the first scene in this movie before the Powerpuff Girls are even made is Professor Utonium buying groceries, and you see that Townsville is like dilapidated because of the
Detroit.
It's just Detroit, and then like the episode, like the movie just starts with him buying groceries, seeing people get robbed,
and then cutting to a screaming monkey,
and getting mugged by the Gangrene Gang. Which is
one of
the few times the Gangrene Gang actually looks threatening in the entire history of the show.
Like, I was actually thinking while watching it a few days ago about, like, what if there were parents who knew, like, nothing about this show, watching this with their kids in the theater, and just it cuts to a screaming monkey destroying a laboratory.
It's like, what are we letting Timmy watch?
What? Like, I just love the idea of a parent watching this, having no idea what Powerpuff is, or, like, not knowing much about it, and just being like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. And it's like, and then I will say, like, I personally like how dark it is. I'm kind of like, you know, you get to see what they are allowed to do here that they aren't allowed to do on TV.
It's surprisingly more violent, and the show is very violent. The show is inherently violent.
They leveled the town playing tag.
Well, not even the town that is very scarcely populated.
Yeah, but like it's also like you feel bad, not just for the girls. Which, you know what, like, yeah, this movie brings up quite a bit of like what you would think as an adult of like, yeah, I feel this show is basically how they treat the characters in X-Men. You know how there's the racists against mutants to the Powerpuff Girls.
Well, I think it adds another layer of how depressing it is, because it's like fucking like 5-year-old girls. They're all treating them like disgusting, like just awful. Like, I always freaks. I always think back. Yeah, I always think back to that, because I remember that was in like like some of the bumpers for the movie. Is that they are little freaks, aren't they? I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, these are children.
It's like, you know, it's so they really are like, we do not, like, the townspeople just don't want to humanize these people at all. And it's like, you know, you feel bad for them. Then, like, you almost get sad, because, man, it really puts into perspective why they treat Mojo Jojo with such disgust in the show, because Mojo builds an actual friendship with these girls, or at least what it seems like. Like,
no, this is the movie that he is the reason he's like one of my favorite villains, is because of this movie, because it's actually really cool to see Mojo actually be a straight up villain. Like, he does some really evil things in the show too, but this is like the only time where he's like 100% threatening, like pure evil, like actual like threat.
Yeah, like he manipulates these girls. It's also very weird to watch him not be like so, Because there's a significant portion of this movie where he's not the bombastic character that he is in the show.
No, well, he's simultaneously one of the funniest Cartoon Network villains, and with this movie, one of the most threatening. Like,
because anytime that he's like walking around the town in like his trench coat and everything, and actually being kind of tragic, and he's like, you know, saying like that he understands how the girls feel and everything, and how he, you know, treats the girls with basic decency, which is all the girls need to, you know, be convinced to help him. And then he finally betrays them. It's like, Jesus Christ, twist the knife further.
well, the way that they edited it a little bit kind of made me wonder at first if well, because they show him reading the newspaper at one point, and he like sees what the girls did, and then you don't see him for a bit, and then there's the thing in the alley with the gangrene gang where he beats the shit out of them to save the girls, and he reacts to them flying, and I've never known if that's just insanely good gaslighting that he was doing, or they edited it in a way where he didn't actually know, because the scene is edited very weird. So like it's almost like the newspaper scene didn't exist.
I mean, it could
with
also
that
just
shot.
be the thing that he didn't see the front page of the newspaper kind of thing, and he's reading the middle part. Like, there are some scenes in shows where it's like they aren't paying attention to the headline, but who knows. But like, you know, it could be more than possible that there are some things cut in the fight.
Well, the movie's barely an hour. That's another thing. It's like an hour, like 8 minutes, something like that. It's like barely an hour.
Minutes.
Okay, so it's like with not counting credits, it's probably like an hour 10.
Yeah, so like I could fully believe there's probably quite a few scenes on the cutting room floor, and they were like, we need to make it shorter because, you know, this is a movie for kids. But like, you know, it is insane how good of a villain Mojo is in this, and like it leads to one of the best like animated fight scenes with them beating up all the fucking monkeys.
Oh no, it's as a kid I watched that scene all the time. It was my favorite part, was just the scene with all the monkeys, and then they come back to Earth, and then they just beat the shit out of all these monkeys.
Yeah, it's just like
also amazing use of color in that scene.
I guess that this is one of the biggest praises for the movie. The movie looks beautiful. Like,
well, it's like every scene in the movie has like a different like tinted color to it, like a filter. It's almost
a very My Life as a Teenage Robot kind of thing, where the palette is constantly changing, and I love that. And like how the shots are boarded in the scene compositions are so good. You really see like the artistic merit when it comes to this show's art style with the movie.
There was actually something I was thinking about when rewatching the movie for this, because I wrote down some notes while I was watching, because I normally do for these. But I was kind of realizing, because we were talking about things feeling like there might have been some cuts. Rewatching this, I realized the girls don't have a lot of character in this movie.
No, they do not. I mean, I guess it's like, look, they literally have only existed for like 5 days in the context of this movie.
Which I get that, but like I think I was about more than I think when we got to the meteor scene, which is a great scene, but like I was watching that scene and it like just kind of hit me. I was like, these girls have had like no character the entire film for the most part.
They have just been little girl.
Yeah, they haven't really had any, which I guess to me, I'm like, did I want them to have more character growth? Because like I already know the show, so I guess it's like if you already know the show, it doesn't matter. But I guess I was thinking of this as an adult if I hadn't seen Powerpuff Girls.
True.
Like, I was just kind of like, they don't really have much character. Hell, they don't even have a lot of like back and forth with each other until that meteor scene.
I guess maybe that's one of the things that makes it a prequel kind of Because I feel like if this was a movie that takes place during the show's run, like, you know, everything is established already. We're not having the Uncle Ben scene kind of thing. You know, the characterization of the girls would not have been as palpable, but I think the fact that it is a prequel and they are currently, you know, they're I don't think they've established their personalities yet, because basically their entire lives so far have been hang out with my dad and the world hates me. I don't think there was much opportunity in the narrative that they've constructed to establish their, you know, because in the show, the girls have very stark personalities to each other.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, I don't think there was much time outside of maybe some moments in the montage where, with hanging out with Dad, where they had the ability to be like, okay, how do we show Blossom being like an expert strategist, or Buttercup being a little literal brick?
Well, I actually argue Buttercup gets the most in this movie.
Look,
I feel like she's
after the fact that her name is just because it starts with a B.
Oh no! Can I talk? That ever since I was a kid, that annoyed the shit out of me, because Buttercup was my favorite one, and I hate that Buttercup. It just like they give all these reasons to give the other two girls' name, and he just looks over at Buttercup and he goes, "Your name's Buttercup because it also begins with a B."
Look,
I'm like, that's bullshit. Give her more thought.
Buttercup always gets the raw end of the deal in so many ways with this. Especially later on in Powerpuff Girls run, especially with the fact of they were like, hey, so remember those moments in the show where it seemed like Buttercup did have a unique power? Because I think she had the ability to literally set herself on fire in some shots.
Yeah, Buttercup was like the one for some reason
has
they
no
like
unique power besides curling her tongue, and I'm like, fuck you. This is not.
No, that always made me so mad, because Buttercup has always been my favorite, and she always got gypped with a lot of that shit.
It's just like, what? Why? Also, this doesn't even make sense. Buttercup has been shown multiple times to be the strongest out of the three and the most durable. That itself is a power. How many times have you seen a superhero that has super strength and super durability as a superpower? That is a unique power. Like, you're stupid and you're dumb. I do love you, Craig McCracken, but that was dumb.
Fix yourself, Utonium.
Fix yourself, Utonium.
Fix yourself.
But, like, yeah, either, you know, outside of the fact that this doesn't have as much characterization for the girls, I think they all have good vocal performances. I mean, it's E.J. Daly and Cavadini and Hatsune Miku.
Hatsune Miku.
Like, they always give a good performance for the girls. Especially during the asteroid scene, because it got.
Oh no,
this movie got to show their range, where they're not just, you know, trying to be like, I'm a girl and I'm a tough girl and I'm the girl.
That's the most character, I think, in the entire movie is the asteroid scene, because it's them actually sitting down and having a discussion, which. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's also this whole thing of like, I mean, Powerpuff also was never really characters sit down and talk for 5 minutes.
Yeah, like I do love the scene where Hatsune Miku, as Bubbles kisses the professor on the cheek, being like, "Thank you, Dad." Like that is I love. That is one of my favorite parts of the movie. Is the fact
I wrote that down
we
actually
see the growth of, because that's the thing. Tony, you know, everyone makes the fucking joke, and I hate this. I hate this joke because it shows you never watched the damn show. Oh, why was the professor making little girls in his basement? My mom never hugged me. But it's like... but it's like, no, he wanted to be a dad because there was literally no joy in his life because he lived in a shithole.
He lived in a really nice house.
He lived in a nice house in a terrible city. Like, I'm
What did he do before he made the girls, now that I think about it? Did they ever explain that in the show?
Apparently he was like just a freelance chemist, I think. Like,
does that really pay that well?
I mean, it seemed like he was working on big projects for people. Like he was always connected to people. So I'm assuming that I assume he worked for the government.
Yeah, no, but when you brought up the dad thing, I actually wrote that down because it hit me when that happened. I'm like, did they ever call him dad in the show? I don't remember a time where they ever call him dad. I just remember them calling him the professor.
I think like if people asked who's your dad, I think they said the professor, but I don't think they ever called him just dad. I think the professor always to himself as dad.
I always remember them just calling him the professor. I never remember them calling him dad at any point.
I think it's the thing of like I think it's the thing of they know he has the label of the father. Like they'll write it, well, they'll say the professor is our father and all that. Or if someone's like, hey, where's your mom? We don't have a mom. Well, where's your dad? Oh, the professor. You know, that kind of thing. But this was like, I think that's why that scene meant so much to me, because it's like, oh, this is the first time they actually just call him dad. That's so cute.
But actually, when I was looking at my notes, there was a thing I thought was interesting because I'd thought about it. Because we were talking about this earlier with the movie being depressing. I can't think of very many superhero films where, for a big chunk of the movie, the hero is treated as a villain by, like, everyone in the movie. Because I was just kind of thinking back on that. I'm like, other than, like, X-Men, I can't really think of a movie where, like, the heroes are treated like the villain for, like, 90% of the film by, like, everybody except a couple characters.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, this movie just is what if the girls were in the X-Men universe with how they're treated.
Well, it's like that episode where they go to that new city, and that new city, like, fucking hates them. And you remember when they meet with the mayor, and they're just like, you caused, like, $4 billion in property damage! Like,
that episode always irked me, because I'm like, we do know other superheroes exist in the universe of Powerpuff Girls.
Hell, they've done, like, Dexter crossovers with Major Glory and, like, those guys before.
Yeah, and they've stated that, like, the DC heroes exist in the context of Powerpuff Girls. Like, they've stated it. So I'm just kind of like, why are they being treated as such a fucking enigma sometimes?
Well, it's the same thing. It's the X-Men argument is why the fuck it...
But that is the same thing as X-Men, because look, it's different when they get their powers, but if you're born this way,
born with them, you're a fucking freak. You're a fucking freak. Like, if you're born with them.
Oh, but the skinny fucking army guy who gets injected with super hormones, he's not the freak?
The kid who got bit by a spider. I mean, to be fair, there are people who don't like him, but, like, the majority of New York likes Spider-Man.
I'm just kind of like, I'm thinking of, like, the other, like, regarded Avengers, where it's like, oh, but the man who basically radiated himself and turns into a giant, like, crazed person with no brain, that's okay. A literal god is fine, which puts a lot of you Christianity people that I know are in the Marvel universe in a quandary.
Well, like, even with DC, I think with DC, there's, like, a bit more grounding with some of the superheroes, because a lot of them are just either guys in suits or they were given powers, but they're not. Yeah, the only ones I could think of that were, like, of the big superheroes that, like, chemically got powers, I think it's just the Flash. Now that I think about it,
I'm just saying, like, the X-Men. I find the logic when it comes to people hating mutants in when the rest.
Oh, it's stupid.
It would be less stupid if the X-Men didn't exist in the same world as every other Marvel hero.
If it's the fact that they exist in the same universe as Spider-Man. Exactly. And, like, the majority of people love Spider-Man in that world.
Especially since so many of the Avengers and stuff apparently, you know, there's plenty of examples where they are like, hey, we have the opportunity that we could speak out and be like, stop treating mutants like shit. But we ain't gonna.
But that's their problem.
That's their problem. It's like, fuck you. Well, okay, when fucking New York is under trouble, don't expect Wolverine to come over.
Just gotta say, it just cuts to Wolverine and Xavier like reading newspaper in their kitchen.
It's literally like the Powerpuff Girls episode where like they take a break on a cloud and it shows that the town is so incapable of taking care of themselves.
One of my favorite lines in the entire show is, "And your toast will get soggy."
Oh yeah, like why would you not take a bath with a toaster?
It's probably my favorite joke in the entire show.
Look, I don't like the idea of that Powerpuff Girls live action show that got shelved. However, the point that they made in that whole thing where they were like, oh yeah, so one of the reasons, amongst the many reasons we quit that are bullshit, one of them is just the town never seemed to learn how to take care of themselves. Yeah! You know what? If I had to take care of the same town since I was 5 years old, I'd be like, fuck them folks. How do you not learn how to take care of yourself? But like, anyways, I really like this movie. I wish there was more characterization for the girls. Like, that is probably one of the most, and there needs to be more levity in the movie, which I guess would have just benefited if the movie was a bit longer. I know
that's the thing. If the movie was maybe like 10, 15 minutes longer, if it was maybe like closer to an hour and a half, it probably would have.
I know that, we currently live in the age where every movie is like 2 fucking
Every
hours,
fucking movie is 2 hours.
But like, even for these movies, these TV show to movie adaptations, like, I mean, Doug was 83 minutes long. And the Rugrats movie, I feel like was 90 minutes at least.
Recess School's Out was also 83 minutes. That's weird.
Oh, and this was 80 minutes. Like,
how long was Wait, let me see. How long was Teacher's Pet? Because that was like a year or two after. That was 74 minutes, so it was almost the exact same length as this.
I would argue, though, that this movie tries to pack a bit more than Teacher's Pet.
I love Teacher's Pet.
No, I love Teacher's Pet. I'm just saying that there's different scaling things of the densities of the movies.
We do need to do Teacher's Pet at some point. That would also be a really good one. I fucking love Teacher's Pet.
Sean had got like a 35 millimeter like film print of the
I think I'm like a while back I remember him like finding something on eBay that was like a fucking film print of it.
Of the trailer, and I'm like, "Oh, you lucky bastard." One of my favorite things that someone ever did related to Teacher's Pet, the movie, was it was Sean or Chris made like the fake Blu-ray cover of the movie and then put it out being like, holy shit, it's happening, as like an April Fool's joke, and so many people were so mad when they were like, no, it's fake.
I think the funniest thing about that movie to me is the fact that came out on my birthday when I was 8. And I remember we were at my grandparents' house. They were setting up the party. And I was just like, oh, we have time to kill. Let's go see a movie. And I wanted to go see Teacher's Pet. And I can guarantee I was probably like the only person in that theater with my dad. Because you want to talk about bomb. Powerpuff Girls was a bomb. Teacher's Pet was a nuclear holocaust at the box office.
Nathan Lane was sitting on the bomb like the cowboy in Doctor Strangelove, just like,
yeah. No, you want a bomb. That's like a nuclear bomb.
Hey, fuck my life.
But yeah. But no, like, it's just, God. But yeah, this movie would have benefited from like 10 extra minutes. Like,
I do wonder, because I think I have the DVD. I don't remember if there's deleted scenes, but I do wonder how much was cut from the movie initially.
Yeah. Like, I just think this movie could have benefited from like 10 extra minutes of just some goof, some gaffes, like some more moments with just the girls. I feel like it would have been good if you took 10 extra minutes for everything that preceded them leveling the town.
Well, yeah, because again, Craig has like openly admitted in interviews that's like his one big regret with the movie is that he didn't make it funnier, or he didn't make it a lighter movie.
I feel like we could have had 10 extra minutes where they're at the house with the professor, going and just having the girls like learn things, like have Blossom in the lab with the professor and being like really into the stuff that he's doing. And that could have been also a good moment of bonding for them, because I assume the professor doesn't have many friends in Townsville that can give a shit or understand what he does as a job.
Hey, fuck my life.
And then, like, it's just, he can have that as, like, a good moment, and it shows Blossom's brains, and or maybe have them all playing a board game. I think, like, a board game scene would have actually been a great way to establish all of their personalities, because Blossom would strategize, Bubbles would just be having a good time and maybe cry, and Buttercup would be mad at the board.
I don't know why that made me laugh. Just the idea, just like Blossom would be strategizing, Bubbles would maybe cry.
Probably just, like, Buttercup would be like do something and be like, "Ha! In your face, Bubbles!" And then you hear the tear welling sound that they always use in the show, and she's like, and then Buttercup's like, "Oh, show the," and then you can see the nicer side of Buttercup being like, "Oh shit, oops, fuck." That would be the actual dialogue, by the way.
If any character in Powerpuff canonically could say fuck one time, it would be Buttercup or Mojo.
I don't give no fucks. The fucks that I'm giving are none.
Have you ever seen, like, the behind the scenes of that, like, that fucking... I want to say it's a monologue, but he says it so fast it could have just been 2 sentences. But, like, that fucking bit where, like, all the monkeys are revolting and he does, like, that stop, cease, desist, the ramblings from my ramblings, like that whole thing where he just goes on and on and on for like a minute straight. Have you seen the behind the scenes of that before?
No.
It was a one take.
The guy who plays Mojo Jojo has a talent that I'm scared of with how good he does these, because I've seen him at cons and stuff, or recordings of him at conventions. He could just do the fucking Mojo monologues, like, so easy. Like, I guess after a certain point, when you've been playing a character for nearly a decade, that becomes muscle memory. But
yeah, because I think I remember watching it, and it was like a one take thing. He did all of it in one go, and he, like, nearly fucking passed out.
Hey, get the fucking Micro Machines man in there. But yeah, like, I really like, man, I don't have many notes on this movie besides I wish it was longer, that we could just
yeah, I mean, that's like my one big criticism, is that I wish it was longer, because I just, like, going back to it, I realized the girls just don't have a lot of character, or at least a lot of character development.
Like, what we got was really good, and I wish we had more to make it even better.
I'm surprised we didn't even talk about the tag scene, really, in the entire, because that's, like, one of the best scenes in the movie.
The tag scene is great. Especially, like it with them leveling the fucking city.
Which is, like, it's, like, both... that's, like, where one of my other favorite... Like, probably the best joke in the entire movie is, I've got a nice car. And the car fucking flies into the window. That guy is dead. That guy, I have always stood by, that guy is dead.
Have you ever,
after that fucking happened.
I don't know if you've ever seen, there's a great Cartoon Network bumper. I think this aired during the studio era, where it's a live action guy, and the Powerpuff Girl logic exists in this live action universe, and he's constantly getting his cars destroyed when he parks for work because of the monsters that the girls are fighting. Did
they ever have real people in the city bumpers? I don't remember them using real people.
Not CN City, the studio era.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying the CN City. I was gonna say I don't remember there ever being people in that.
The era where they were all working at.
That was in, like, the office building.
Yeah,
that's the office building era.
Yes, the office building, and, like, the because I always remember the one where Yogi Bear doesn't have his ID card and the security guards won't let him into the studio.
And is it, I forget, doesn't, like, Boo Boo just walk in?
Boo Boo just walks in, and there's also a poster of Yogi right behind them. And Yogi's just like, Carl, I went to your son's birthday last week.
I'll always remember. No, my favorite part of that is when they keep like naming off other people, and he like they just go speed buggy. He's a car. He just.
Look, everyone loves the Sea and City, and I love the Sea and City. I grew up with that. But God, the Har Har Studios era is so fucking funny because that uses more of like the Hanna-Barbera characters with the cartoons, and the amount that just has them genuinely frustrated makes me laugh because
I assume you've seen the Captain Planet Ed, Edd and Eddy one before.
Oh yeah, like
which isn't that like one of the only ones to have Captain Planet?
It's like one of two, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't being in any of those bumpers.
Yeah, like it's just I love I love that era. It's so good. I did a stream watching like CN City and stuff with Salty. I don't know if we did the studios because we did that in the Cartoon Network and the like Cartoon Network Boomerang like Groovies. But I love he's a car. That and like the one where they're at like the convenience store and the convenience store owner's like, no, those are hooves, no, horseshoes with Quick Draw McGraw. Just horseshoes. And it just ends with like them dressing all the parts up with a on Quick Draw, I think, and Fred Flintstone's just booty ass naked. But yeah, I really like the Powerpuff. I wish this movie did better because there are so many cartoons that I think if this movie did better, like cartoons that were on Cartoon Network, we could have gotten.
Oh, well, I know for a long time they talked about doing an Adventure Time movie, like a theatrical. I think they had originally wanted to end the show with a movie, I believe. And it just never came to fruition. But I remember hearing about it for a long time because I remember Pendleton had been saying he really wanted to do a movie.
There was that. I know that there was talks for a long time of a Gumball theatrical movie. There were even buzzes for a Ben 10 animated theatrical movie.
I'm so surprised they never did a Ben 10 movie because given how much they milked Ben 10 for like almost like 15 years almost. Like, I'm surprised they never did like an Alien Force movie or hell, even the original show. I mean, I'm surprised they never did a movie.
And from what I've heard, so many of the reasonings why they never did was because Warner Brother heads. Because at this point, you know, because this was probably like the final remnants of This was like right at the beginning, like this movie was like right at the beginning of them was Cartoon Network being owned by Warner, right?
I'd have to look that up, but I know that Warner Brothers distributed the movie. So
when did Warner Brothers buy Cartoon Network? It was fully absorbed in 2001, and this movie was what?
Okay, so it was really, probably during production of the movie that it happened.
Yeah, so it was a lot of it was Warner just being like, well, the Powerpuff Girls movie didn't do well. We can't have trust that there would be a Cartoon Network property that will do well. And it's
well, I know they didn't they also want to do like a live action Johnny Bravo movie for like a period.
Yeah.
I know like that was like another thing they talked about. I think it was like Dwayne Johnson was going to do it.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, I'm sad that this movie set a precedent of distrust for a Cartoon Network movie. And it's like, especially since there were so many properties between now and I guess Teen Titans Go that I think deserved a chance to be theatrical. And it just didn't, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the Teen Titans Go movie, but they didn't really do a lot to make it theatrical, or at least look like a theatrical film.
Yeah, like, they could have added like, when you look at the art direction they went for with this movie while still retaining the art style of the show, it's like, you had the ability, Teen Titans Go. You just didn't want to. And it's weird because there are quite a few times in that movie where it cuts to really well animated, like, frame by frame scenes, and it's like, look, we're not asking you to do that for the whole movie, but you obviously have the talent on hand that you could have at least changed the color palette once in a while. I don't know. But yeah, I really like this movie. I wish there was more of this movie. And I wish Powerpuff Girls ended with this fucking movie.
Yeah, I remember after this movie came out was like pretty much when I dropped off from Powerpuff Girls, and I just kind of stopped enjoying it.
There's a couple look, there's a few episodes in what would have been season 4 and 5, I think, is when they also had like the art style change. Not as drastic as the art style change in Dexter, but an art style change. Like, there's a few episodes in that I enjoy. I think the episode where him gives Bubbles the chalk is in the later seasons, and that is one of my favorite episodes of the entire show. However, I would sacrifice that for this being the final Powerpuff Girl thing of the original run. It's like SpongeBob. It's like, I wish you just ended with your movies, because it's such a good poetic ending, but no, the big wigs have to be like, no, there's still juice in here. We gotta squeeze.
Was that intentional, or did you accidentally?
I accidentally. Alrighty. Do you have any other final thoughts?
I can't, like, not really. I mean, again, it's a good movie. It's just more so, I wish that this movie... Oh, Samurai Jack was going to get a movie too, supposedly, wasn't it?
I think so, yes.
Because that just hit me. I think Samurai Jack was another one that was supposedly going to get a movie, which, God, I would love to see Samurai Jack with a theatrical budget, animation-wise.
Yeah.
Like...
But I guess there's one thing we could agree on. Damn it didn't put the picture. Hold on. Hold on. Oh god, I have to use the worst picture. But there's one thing we can agree on, Michael. My dear friend Michael.
Yes.
At least...
No! Oh god, no! I hate it! I unironically hate it.
At least we didn't have to talk about this short during this episode.
For those that don't know, this was something that aired before the movie that we don't like to talk about.
Yep. Okay, bye!